In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a power steering pump on your Toyota Tacoma. This will be located on the top of the engine. Let's get started. Using a pair of pliers, we're going to pinch the clamp for the return line, pull the clamp back, pull the line off of the reservoir. Using a 17 millimeter, we're going to remove the bolt for the union. Remove the bolt. Using a 14 millimeter socket, we're going to get on the belt tensioner and take the tension off of the belt. Pull the tensioner back. We're only going to remove the belt off of our power steering pump. We're going to pull the belt over and try and keep it tight so it stays on the rest of our pulleys. You could use something to tie this up, like a zip tie or a bungee cord. Let the pressure off of the tensioner. Remove the connector on the power steering pump. Push on the tab, pull straight back. Remove the connector. Put it off to the side. Using a 14 millimeter socket, we're going to remove the two bolts for the power steering pump. Go through the pulley. There's this one on the left side. We're going to break it free. We're also going to go to the bottom one, go through the bottom of the pulley. Remove both bolts, slide the bolts out. You can use a flat blade screwdriver or a magnet. I'm going to use a pry bar and push our power steering pump out. Give it a little wiggle and remove the pump. We're going to remove the three 10 millimeter bolts for the reservoir. There's two on the back. When you flip it over, there's one through the front on the pulley right here. We're going to put our pump in a vise. We're going to use a flat blade screwdriver and go right under our reservoir, pop straight up, and remove the reservoir. Give the O-ring a check over. Be sure it's not ripped, torn. If it is, replace it. Using a 19 millimeter socket, we're going to remove the power steering pressure switch. I'm going to swap this over to the new pump. Check the O-ring. Be sure there's no rips or tears. Remove the cap on the power steering pump. Install the reservoir. Be sure it's fully seated. Get the bolt started. With all the bolts started by hand, go around and snug them down. Remove the cap for the pressure switch. Install the pressure switch. Snug it down. We're going to crack this plastic fitting free. Now we're ready to install into the car. Install the power steering pump. Get the bottom bolt started. Once you have the bottom bolt started, we'll swivel the pump over and install the second bolt. Get the bolt started by hand. Snug down the bolts. Torque the power steering bolts to 15 foot-pounds. Install the connector for the power steering pressure switch. Push until you hear a click. If you don't, give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. Remove the plastic cap for the feed line. Install a crush washer on either side of the union bolt going through the feed line. Install the feed line onto the pump. Get it started by hand. When we torque the union bolt, we're going to make sure the line is not contacting the sensor. We're going to torque our line to 38 foot-pounds. Be sure you have a clamp on your return hose. Install the return hose onto the reservoir. Release the clamp. Be sure it's fully seated and on the back side of the rib. Install your ratchet onto the tensioner. Grab the belt. Pull it over to the power steering pump. Get it ready to install. As we pull the tension off of the tensioner, we're going to wrap it around the power steering pump. Be sure all of the grooves are lined up. Our belt is missing a rib. There should be one more right here. Remove the cap for the power steering reservoir. Fill the system with the proper fluid. With our reservoir filled, we're going to get the front wheels off of the ground, and we're going to spin the steering wheel lock to lock. Either way, we're going to do this 10 to 20 times. Continue checking your reservoir, making sure you have fluid. Once you're done bleeding, do your final check. Install the cap. Check our fluid level. We see that it's not on the cold yet, so we're going to fill our system. Almost there. Now that we have the proper amount of fluid, we'll start up our car, we'll run it. We're going to see if there's any whine to our power steering pump. If so, we have more bleeding to do. Keep going back and forth, lock to lock. Once your pump is nice and quiet, you have the proper fluid and amount in the reservoir, then you're good to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.